This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report, and we're here with Steve Earle. Steve, continue with what you're saying about your dad.
I'm writing songs for Joan that Joan's requested that I write, and I wrote God is God for that record, and I also wrote I Am a Wanderer. And then when I started putting songs together for this record, I did simply because I thought the songs were I was really proud of them. I called Joan and asked if it would be okay with her if I recorded them myself, and she said of course. And then I was finishing the novel and didn't know what the record was going to be called. The book was always going to be called I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive. It's about a defrocked doctor living in San Antonio, Texas in 1963 who's a heroin addict, and he supports his habit largely by performing abortions. And 10 years earlier, he was traveling with Hank Williams when he died, and Hank's ghost has followed him to San Antonio and haunts him there. What else would you call a book like that? So it was sort of, I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive is the title of a Hank Williams song, the last record that he released. And the record, you know, I kept writing songs, and then when I sequenced it, I realized that the songs were about the same things that the book ended up being about, because most of the book was written since my dad died too. And you know, when I'm old enough now, I've started to lose some friends. And then when the generation before you passes on, you start realizing that you're next, and you start thinking about, you know, I've had, it's a lot about examining how we deal with death in this culture. You know, I think maybe that we have it, there might be other cultures that do a little better job of it than we do, that treat it a little more like part of life than we do. Sometimes I think our process of dying is more about people that don't really have to die, and the person that's left to do that, to make that big step, has to do it pretty much by themselves. And they say death and taxes are the only things that are inevitable. You know, you cannot pay your taxes. I've done it. There are consequences, but you know, you can elect not to pay your taxes, and death is the one thing we don't get out of. And I just I found myself thinking about it and writing about it. I don't think in a morbid fashion. I'm hoping that my sort of left of center orientation to everything, political, spiritual, everything else, that I'll be at least not completely and totally unprepared when it becomes my turn.
I wanted to ask you, earlier in the show, we were dealing with what was going on in the Muslim world, in Yemen, and in Syria and Iran. When you see over the last few months these enormous uprisings that have been occurring across the world, and yet here in this country still relative dormancy in terms of the American population, your sense for the future of art in this country, as well as the future for the country?
Well, I mean, I think it's obvious that democracy is something that is contagious, and it always has been. And you know, assuming that I think in our society we tend to be, you know, we live in what's been the most powerful country in the world for a long time, and I think we overestimate our ability to control all of that and affect all of that. And the fact of the matter is, democracy does just fine and probably better without our interference, and I think that's been proven over and over again. And I think everyone had, I mean, you know, I'm not someone that grew up believing that we necessarily practice the purest form of democracy in the world here or anything closest to it. And I think every society has to arrive at that. You know, it's not that we can't comment on it. It's not that we can't have an effect on it. I think, you know, but you have to take culture into consideration. And I think these things, you know, we've spent all this money, all this time, all this power, and all these lives trying to affect you know, what's going on in other countries in the name of democracy. And then, you know, I think when the Soviet Union vanished off of the map, I think it surprised us more than it did anybody else.
Well, Steve, from the Mideast to the Midwest, you were in Madison. You were in that uprising.
Well, I didn't actually go. I started with Tom Morello went. I was on call to go, and I never quite got there for a lot of reasons. But it.
But you are well known for also singing labor songs.
Yeah, that's the most important thing that's going on in the life of our democracy right now. Every place else in the world but here, trade unionism is a fundamental component of democracy. Every place that even claims to be democratic in the world. Here, we separated our trade unions from the rest of the world a long time ago, and we did it on purpose. And you know, it's catching up with us now, and this defines us in the future. I think figuring out whether we're going to allow people to collectively bargain determines the quality of our democracy.
You
want to
sing a labor song for us right now?
Oh, I have labor songs. Let's see. I have all kinds of labor songs. This on TSA. Let's do this is about labor and democracy and heroes. It's Christmas time in Washington. Democrats rehearse, getting into gear for 4 more years of things not getting worse. Republicans drank whiskey neat and thank their lucky stars. They said you cannot seek another term, there'll be no more FDRs. I sit home in Tennessee, staring at the screen, an uneasy feeling in my chest, wondering what it means. So come back, Woody Guthrie, come back to us now. Tell your eyes from paradise and rise again somehow. If you run into Jesus, maybe he can help you out. Come back, Woody Guthrie, to us now. Woody, cows out in the corn. Our unions have been busted, their proud red banners torn. But if you listen to the radio, they'll tell you all is well. But you, me, and Cisco know it's going straight to hell. So come back, Emma Goldman, I'll rise up old Joe Hill. The barricades are going up, they cannot break our will. Come back to us, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. We're marching into Selma while the bells of freedom ring. And come back, Woody Guthrie, come back to us now.